Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with our spoiler card, Battlewise Hoplite. This is part 2 of our video series. You can go check out part 1 with the Judge's Corner explaining how this card actually interacts with spells, the Scry ability, and exactly what Heroic does. So I highly suggest checking out part 1 and then coming back over to part 2 where we're actually going to be brewing with this card. Anyway, I'll just go over this real quick. It's called Battlewise Hoplite. What it does is it has, sorry if this picture is a little bit blurry here, it is a 2/2 for 2 mana, a white and a blue, and as Heroic, whenever you cast a spell that targets Battlewise Hoplite, put a +1/+1 counter on Battlewise Hoplite, and then Scry 1. Scry is actually a very powerful ability in a tempo type deck and goes perfect in this deck as you can filter through all the unnecessary lands, put them on the bottom of your library, and keep the fuel for this dude to keep pumping him up. And yeah, hopefully getting in there for the win. Anyway, so here is the deck list I've been messing around with. Right now in the Theros spoilers, there's got to be some cards that tie together these heroic cards. There isn't a lot of spells that just target a particular creature. So far, a lot of the more flavorful cards or powerful cards have been spoiled right now, so I'm sure all the fillers will be soon. But I have found enough targets in good old Return to Ravnica blocks and M14 that I do believe that there's enough cards to actually make this particular heroic ability work, and I will show that to you right here. So here's my deck. I have a few fillers here as they are not available on MTGO. The first one read it out here. Guy St. Trapped is placeholding here for a card called Daxos of the Meletis. Daxos of the Meletis is, sorry again if this is a little bit hard to read, he can't be blocked by a creature with power 3 or greater. He's a 2/2 for 3. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library. You gain life equal to that card's converted mana cost. Until in a turn, you may cast that card cast the card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. So basically, you can cast any card that you exile with the top of their library whenever it connects. So it's kind of like a curiosity to draw a card, but a little more powerful. I guess you're drawing one of their cards instead of your own card. So we'll see how well this card works. I'm including it in this deck just because it is in color, and I definitely do want to see how it works, see how powerful it is. It might actually end up getting the cut. Anyway, let's go back to the deck, as I haven't talked much about the deck and the synergies. So that's what this guy St. Trapped is placeholding here, and the Elite Inquisitor is placeholding a card. Let's see here. It's called Phalanx Leader, and it has Heroic. And this is actually another very, very powerful Heroic card. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Phalanx Leader, put a +1 counter on each creature you control. So we have one guy, a 2/2 for 2, where whenever you cast a spell on it, it gets a +1 counter, and then you get a Scry. Or you have another target with Phalanx Leader, where every creature gets +1/+1. And you get a Scry. So I'm actually going to be brewing a lot of, there's definitely a red-white heroic deck that I'm going to be brewing with that I think is going to be very awesome with Young Pyromancer. And I might actually go into more of the white, blue, red colors to put in cards like Young Pyromancer, and then you have access to, I think it's called Annex and Cymede, and you have access to a bunch of other cards that just go crazy with this heroic ability. And then we have also placeholding in the deck God's Willing, which is this card. Target creature control gains protection from the color of your choice, and then Scry. And what I have in there is Face Shields right now for that particular card. And I think that's all of them. I've got the Deputy of Acquittals placeholding here for the Battlewise Hoplite. Alright, so let's get into the deck here. This deck is a Hidden Strings deck. I've had a lot of success with Hidden Strings with cards like Gutter Snipe and Young Pyromancer, and one of the key cards that I use in that deck is Niv-Magus Elemental. Niv-Magus Elemental says it's a 1/2 for 1, and it says exile an instant or sorcery spell you control, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Niv-Magus Elemental. The reason I like Niv-Magus Elemental so much is that it can start counterspelling any of the unnecessary cards. Like if you have a Museum Skin in your hand that you don't need to actually give your guy hexproof, it can just double as a +2/+2 counters, 2 +1/+1 counters of Niv-Magus Elemental. And anyway, so I think Niv-Magus Elemental is the best one-drop. There are definitely these other one-drops like Cloudfin Raptor or the Elite Boros Elite. The only problem I do have with this deck is it does go into a blue into a double white, and the only way that can actually happen is with Hallowed Fountain right now, and then going into a Plains. So maybe I should. Right now I'm running 8 islands, 7 plains, and 4 Azorius Guild Gates and 4 Hallowed Fountains. I'm hoping the Azorius Guild Gates can get cut down for another multi-land that hasn't been a multicolored land that hasn't been spoiled yet in Theros. I'm hoping there is some sort of fixing, at least for the ally colors. So anyway, so it's Nimegas Elemental, and then of course all of your heroic dudes. So you've got 4 here and 4 here, and then Hidden Strings. Hidden Strings says you may tap or untap target permanent, then you may tap or untap another target permanent. So actually you can get, if maybe the Judge's Corner dude might correct me, but if you have 2 heroic guys out, I think Hidden Strings doubles as you're targeting, you're casting it, and you're targeting a, say you're targeting the 2/2 Phalanx Leader and targeting a Deputy of Acquittals. Both heroics should trigger. She should get a +1 counter. It won't trigger if you target Deputy of Acquittals with the same spell here, but if you target 2 different ones, it will. I believe that both will trigger with Hidden Strings. And the cool thing about Hidden Strings is then you get a Ciphered on your dude, and then when you attack, voila, you get to cast it again, and you get to, you guessed it, target the what I keep calling it Deputy Acquittals, target the Battlewise Hoplite again, or the Phalanx Leader, get some more counters, scry some more, and you are good to go. So that is the gist of the deck. The other cards in the deck, like I said, right now we don't have the best variety of instances or sorceries. So I've concluded to, I want a high creature count. So I did go up in Liev Sky Knights. I do believe that is the best 3-drop that we have access to right now, as it does detain, and it works very well with like Precinct Captain or even these 2/2s that are going to become pretty big. Hopefully within a couple turns they're going to be 4/4s, 5/5s, and the Liev Sky Knight's really cool because with the Phalanx Leader you get this pseudo unblockable dude, at least a flying, some evasive creature that is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on. And that is why I'm including a 1 of Simic Manipulator, as it seems like between the Phalanx Leader giving him counters and my super secret tech with Bioshift, being able to Bioshift off from either Nimegas Elemental or a Battlewise Hoplite, that you can actually get some pretty good cards or pretty good token count on your Simic Manipulator and then begin to take over your opponent's creatures. All right, so I think that's the gist of the creatures here. Let's go on to the instance of sorceries besides Hidden Strings. We've got Museum Skins. That's kind of a duh. Gives your dude hexproof, saves your dude against like an Abrupt Decay, and also the Face Shield, which is God's Willing, which basically does the same thing. Except this does permanent. God's Willing only does, I believe, creature control, gain protection of color of your choice, and then you get a scry. So Museum Skin and God's Willing kind of do the same thing. They're going to keep your creatures alive and simultaneously pump them up. So great spell. And of course you can mess around with that count. It definitely takes some play testing to mess around with it. Then of course I've talked about Bioshift. I'm trying a take, as it does actually target it. So if you, I think, I'm not sure how this would stack. Again, this is a great question for the Judge's Corner or any other judge. If you can actually, with the target the Battlewise Hoplite, and then it automatically puts a +1/+1, and then you can remove those. I think you have to do it simultaneously, but if you're sitting on like a 4/5 and the board's kind of stalled, you could remove 3 counters from your Battlewise Hoplite to at least draw 3 cards with Take. And again, Take might not be the most powerful card, but I thought I'd at least keep it in here for the synergy. And of course, there's no way to actually cast Give. You might actually want a breeding pool or something in case you do ever have the need to actually cast Give to give a creature +1, 3/+1/+1. Again, great synergy with Simic Manipulator, but again, that changes the whole feel of the deck quite a bit. All right, so then we have Swift Justice. Like I said, there's not the greatest variety of cards that we have that target creatures at the moment, but this one's a great one. First strike, lifelink, +1/+0. It'll really go over the top against aggressive decks, as you will be killing. This will act as removal. You'll get a +1/+1 counter out of it. You'll get first strike, so it will kill their creature. Your dude will survive, and you'll be able to gain that life. A minimum of probably 3 or 4 life from Swift Justice. So if not main board, it definitely will be a sideboard card. And then I'm including one of Ajani Call the Pride just because it does put +1/+1 counters on creatures. So you've got the synergy here. It is not a spell. Its ability is not a spell, so it does not trigger. That'd be awesome if the +1/+1 actually did trigger. But nevertheless, it will give a dude double strike and flying, and very, very good with like Niv Magus Elemental. It gets really, really big off hidden strings. Like the good thing with Niv Magus Elemental is you start countering all the hidden strings that you don't need. So if you cipher hidden strings, like first turn Niv Magus Elemental and the second turn hidden strings, then you attack with Niv Magus Elemental, then you counter that second hidden strings, and it's a 3/4 on turn 2, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as the game goes on. All right, let's go on to the sideboard. A few choices. What I like about being in blue and white is you have a lot of sideboard choices depending on the meta. You have Silence, which is very good. In a tempo deck, I'm actually thinking about using this card more and more, as you can shut your opponent's first turn down, or second turn, or third turn. On their turn, you cast the Silence, and they can't cast spells. That sets them back an entire turn. It's almost like a mini little time walk, as they can play a land, but that's about it. They can attack, they can do other things, but on their second or third turn, you're basically locking them down. Another Mizium skin in the sideboard, just showing that his options. Got Brave the Elements. Everything in here is white. Every creature in here is white except for Niv Magus Elemental and Simic Manipulator. So it can if there's a card like Pyroclasm spoiled, or we have Mizium Mortars in standard at the moment, which probably would be an incredibly popular card. We have Brave the Elements as an answer. Then we have Azura's Charm, one of the best cards in the game right now. You could definitely put these in main board. Then you have the counter spells with Essence Scatter, Negate, and Spell Rupture. And again, this sideboard is not tuned. I'm just showing cards here. And then for Temple, you have Disperse, which is another great card. I think that there's going to be a lot of enchantments in this set. And Disperse is very good for at least returning that creature to the opponent's hand, and therefore the enchantment falls off. Then some other creatures I thought about using in here. Fencing Ace, just because of all the +1/+1 counters going around. This guy's got double strike. He's going to get really big really quickly. Then we have Imposing Sovereign, which you could actually, I was thinking about Blind Obedience as well, as this really shut down aggro decks. And the good thing about Imposing Sovereign is it taps down your opponents so they can't block with him that next turn as well. And in kind of a white weenie tempo deck, that is very, very good to get in that excess damage here. Keening Apparition, because like I said, I think that there's going to be tons of enchantments, and I think this card is going to be great. And I like Keening Apparition over the more traditional, like War Priest of Thune is rotating out, but the comes into play abilities, I kind of like having a sack ability rather than comes into play, even though you do lose your creature, but this guy can actually, you can throw him out on turn 2 and he can get in there for some damage, and then if you do need to sack him, you can sack him. So you don't have to hold this in your hand waiting for your opponent to play the enchantment. Then a Syndic of Ties. I just really like Syndic of Ties with hidden strings. Extort and hidden strings is a very, very fun combo, as you are going to get a hidden strings off hopefully each turn, and with an Extort guy, and that, like I said, Blind Obedience can definitely replace Imposing Sovereign as well. You can at least get a life, one damage life swing per turn. And then we have access to some cards like Banisher Priest, if we're going up against any creature deck that we do need to kind of keep that tempo and banish something down. And Fiendslayer Paladin, great against black and red decks, kind of almost a little pseudo hexproof. That can get hooked up again with +1/+1 counters. And Frontline Medic, that's a great answer for cards with X and their converted mana cost, like Gaze of Granite and Sphinx's Revelation and cards like that. Speaking of Sphinx, you could definitely put Sphinx's Revelation in this deck, other than I do think it's a little mana intensive for what we're trying to achieve here with 23 lands. Anyway, that's my first brew here with our card. We'll show it again with the Battlewise Hoplite. Sorry if, again, it's a little blurry. And we'll have some further brews with this card coming up. Like I said, I'll be brewing a lot of, I'm sure, budget decks, because a lot of the cards that I am looking at right now are commons and uncommons from the set that I'm really excited about. The mythics and rares seem a bit awkward. I'm sure they'll be great to brew with, but right off the bat, I'm seeing a lot of combinations with cards like Young Pyromancer and whatnot that will make great budget decks. Anyway, this has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. I hope you enjoyed this brew with Battlewise Hoplite. Thanks for watching.